Welcome back, dear learners. Let us study one more poem of Kamala Das, that is the Dance of Eunuchs. But before I start explaining you a few lines of this very particular poem, I would like to tell you something about the actually composition of this poem and the poetic collection this poem was the part of. Actually, this poem, like like an introduction, like like a hot noon in Malabar, summer in Calcutta. This poem was also composed in the year 1965 or maybe a year before 1965 and published in the collection of poem titled Summer in Calcutta. Just as just as an introduction and summer in Calcutta and a hot noon in Malabar describe the personal experience of the poetess Kamala Das and discusses in detail about the complications and problem Kamala Das as a woman had to face and how did she try her level best to break herself free, particularly from those bondages, those traditions, and those, those rules and regulations which were imposed upon her only because she was a woman. This very particular poem is somewhat different in comparison with those poems. Why? Because in this poem, actually, she laments the miserable fate or miserable lot of the eunuchs. Eunuchs, transgenders. Transgenders are those people who are neither actually you can say that women or men, but belong to the third gender. So here in this very particular poem, actually she is lamenting, or you can say that yes, she is lamenting the miserable lot of these poor creatures through them, you say that. Why? Because the just the the speaker of the poem is describing a particular day and describing the activity of these eunuchs of that day. So now let's begin the poem and try to understand it. It was hot, so hot. Before the eunuchs came, it means it was hot, so hot. It means here the poetess of the poem is describing a certain day of summer season. Since she belonged to southern part of India, and you know the southern part of India is very hot in comparison with the other part of our country. So it was a hot summer day. The day was very hot before the eunuchs, transgenders came for dancing. Why? Because dancing is a means of earning their bread for themselves. They came particularly to dance to earn their bread. They wore wide skirts, and when they were actually dancing or when they began dancing, their wide loose skirts actually started going round and round, or their wide skirts were going round and round and round. They were carrying certain, you can say that musical instruments like cymbals. Cymbals are the two pieces musical instruments. They are used particularly for you can say particularly for beating during the kirtans and all, richly clashing and anklets jingling. So these transgenders came on a hot summer day. They came particularly for dancing. When they came particularly for dancing, for earning their bread, they wore wide skirts, and when they began dancing, their wide skirts started going round and round with their body movements, or because of their quick and sharp body movements. They had cymbals in their hands, and they were hitting or clashing, they were clashing those cymbals against each other, particularly for producing producing sound. They wore anklets, a piece of ornament that women wear round their ankle, just lowest part of their leg, just close to the feet. And since they were dancing, what happened? Those just anklets they wore, they had tiny bells, and those tiny bells were producing beautiful jingling sound beneath the fiery gulmohar. And where where were these eunuchs dancing? Actually, these eunuchs were dancing under a gulmohar tree with its red color flowers, and because of this red color flower of the gulmohar, the poetess used the word fiery for the gulmohar, with long braids, and they had tied or arranged their all hair in a single, you can say, in a single plate, and it's all because of that they call it braid. So braid here, the long plate of the hair of those you see eunuchs. Since they were dancing, they were going round and round. With them, their skirts and their plate were, their hair plate, it means, were going round and round. Dark eyes, they had dark eyes, it means their eyes were flashing, means dark eyes stand for their sufferings and problems. They danced and they danced. So see how endlessly, means non-stop, these just eunuchs were actually dancing. Oh, see, with sadness, they say here the exclamatory word the poet uses. It means the poet was very sad, or the poet is very sad to see the non-stop dancing of these eunuchs. Why? Because they dance so much without wearing shoes or slippers that their feet start bleeding. There were green tattoos on their cheeks. So they had got their cheeks tattooed to look beautiful or to look good. Jasmine in their hair, and they wore or they wear jasmine in their hair, particularly to look beautiful. Some were dark, means dark complexion, the skin of the color of their skin. Some of the eunuchs were dark skin, you see, eunuchs, and some were purely fair, means white. Their voices were harsh. So see, since these actually eunuchs, neither they are men nor they are purely women, so their voices are very similar to the male voices. And the voice of the male is somewhat rough, somewhat you can say this, somewhat not pleasant. So the voices of these eunuchs were not pleasant like the voices of the women have sharp, shrill, actually pleasant voice, but the voices of these actually eunuchs were not sweet and pleasant, were harsh, their songs melancholy, since they had lots of problems in their own lives. Because of that, they were singing sad songs. Melancholy means sad. They sang of lovers dying or the children left unborn. So, what kind of song these eunuchs were actually singing while dancing? they were singing about the miserable lot of the lovers who had very sad and sorrowful end. Why? Because they couldn't meet, they couldn't unite, and they had a very sorrowful or tragic end. They also sang about these songs sang songs about the miserable lot of those children who could not see the light of the day. Why? Because they were killed before they could see the light. Some beat their drums, so they had cymbals in their own hands. Some eunuchs had cymbals, musical instruments, whereas some had drums. So some of them were just clashing cymbals, whereas some other were beating drums, and some others were beating their breast. Sorry, actually the breast were not sorry. Actually, these eunuchs were sorry for their miserable lot. But here, since there is a misapplication of adjective, here it is cynic, sorry, it is transferred epithet. So see, in these lines, actually Kamala Das is just lamenting the miserable lot of these transgenders. How are they responsible, or how are they at fault if they are born as transgenders? But they have to bear the brunt, they have to bear the brunt, they have to suffer endlessly. They are welcomed nowhere, they are just honored, or they are given no honor anywhere. Wherever they go, they have only and only to bear humiliation and insult and embarrassment, you can say that. But they have to dance, they have to do that only for satisfying the hunger of their own stomach. So thank you for watching this video. I hope this explanation will help you understand these a few lines of this poem, or these first few lines of this poem. In the next video, I'll come with the remaining lines of the poem to explain. Thank you for watching.